There is not one truth, but there are many. Oh, as there are people, there is not one truth.
My younger daughter Ruth was murdered, and we went through a very long process with the criminal justice system in waiting nearly a year for the trial. And at the time, I can remember thinking, I wish I could actually talk to this person, because until the police came to see us and told us that he'd been charged, we had never even heard his name.
But there are many, oh, to be sure. There is not one truth.
It just felt really strange not to know anything about the person who had such a radical effect on our family. I had seen him at the trial, but only from behind. The case was held in court number 1 at the Old Bailey, and the dock that he was in was higher than us, so I didn't really have much sense of how tall he was.
You may not harm me, you may not frighten me, if I do not believe in your version of events.
I wanted to get a sense of what kind of person this man was. I also learned that he had a lot of respect for Ruth and that she had been extremely kind to him when he was troubled. I felt he did his best to express his sadness and his desire that this had never happened.
There is not one truth, but there are many. Oh, to be sure.
Basically what happens at a Restorative Justice Conference is convened if it's been found that somebody has harmed another person. The first part of the process is to invite those people to come together. And that's quite a complex process, because it often seems an unnatural thing to do, to want to meet either the person you've harmed or the person who's harmed you.
There have to be 3 things in place. One is that the person who has committed the offence, if it's a crime, or made the problem, has accepted that they did it. The second thing is that there must be a safe environment for everybody concerned, and that everybody present is there willingly, they haven't been coerced.
And you facilitate basically for them to listen to each other's experience of the harm, and then to enter into dialogue in order to firstly understand each other, and secondly agree what should be done to make everything right.
It's going to be very interesting indeed to hear what he's got to say to us. Would you please welcome Lionel Morrison?
We as a community need to face up to these difficult issues, not push them under the carpet and leave them for someone else. We need to take steps, make it thorough, not let restorative justice become an easy label, a quick fix.
Restorative justice for me is important in the sense that what it does do is to create an atmosphere among people to be able to work together to come to a solution.
The superficial quick apology misses the opportunity for restorative justice. The deeper levels of sorriness take time.
The only thing we humans have to solve conflict is the word. At the end of any conflict, what happens? Eventually they get around a table and they start talking to one another. So the language that we use is critical, because we need to get into their thinking processes. We certainly have to be very flexible, because we're going to be working with people about their needs, not ours.
Well, we've been invited over to deliver a training course, what we call Foundation Skills in Restorative Practices. It's a really diverse group of people who have come along. There's probation officers, people from volunteer organisations, drug counsellors, police officer, specialists in family group conferencing.
In terms of a single message, it was about individual stories. It's something which you kind of intuitively know as a probation worker, but to have it expressed in that way, that it's about giving people the chance, the scope to have themselves heard. It did make me stop and think that really a lot of the time we're too busy doing and sometimes not quite busy enough listening.
Restorative justice isn't about the professional's journey. It's all about the offender and the victim, and trying to bring them together in a very calm and neutral manner but trying to get some positivity out of what was a very negative situation.
Bringing them together with the person who's harmed them is potentially a really powerful experience for both of them. It's obviously a very challenging experience that I think has got real potential. It's a very different way of working for us because we focus on people who've committed the offences, so we're going to have to really think about how we put that into practice, but that's something which is, I think, going to benefit everybody.
What I've learned this week from doing this training is that we already embody as an organisation restorative principles. There's still a lot more to learn.
And it has been a very enriching experience. It's given me a lot of extra material with which to inform my own practice. And I'm going to go back and review my practice as a result of these 5 days, really.
A number of voluntary sector organisations identify them specifically as working with victims. A number identify themselves as specifically working with offenders. And of course, what the RJ training has shown us and highlighted is that those brackets really should be flexible in terms of how we work with people. I think that this is a model that you can apply to neighbourhoods, to communities.
It's a matter of just getting people together so that they can have positive dialogue with each other. I think most important is don't be afraid.
The growth for this can be enormous if we want to listen to the harm people have experienced. But that is the offer to people. You have to listen to harm, so we have to equip people to do that.
I'm really hoping that we can set some roots in place and that we'll be able to build a really good foundation now from which we can work to make sure that we are going to be able to create a really sustainable restorative justice process throughout Devon and Cornwall.
But there are many, as there are people. There is not one truth.
The next day, Eric phoned me and said, I've seen the man this morning, and he told Eric that it had been the first full night's sleep he'd had since Ruth's death. So I like to think that it was something that helped him as well. My hope, and maybe my dream, is that in the future in this country, people who want to take part in restorative justice processes will be supported and encouraged to do so, and that it will be seen as a perfectly normal thing to do.
You may not harm me, you may not frighten me.
It's very difficult for the offender to be able to come forward and be able to say, look, I've done wrong, I've done mistakes, and we must be able to help in a system, to be able to help themselves so that they can meet their responsibilities in the harm that they have done.
You won't always feel this way. You won't always feel. You won't. You won't always feel this way. You won't always feel. You won't always feel. You won't this way. You won't always feel this way. You won't always feel. You won't always feel this way. You won't. You won't always feel this way. You won't always feel. You won't always feel. You won't the way. You won't always sing this song, no way. You won't always sing.